Alrighty. Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome to Elevate Your Spiritual Awakening, the podcast where we embark on a spiritual journey of self discovery and transformation. I'm Christy, joined by my co host Jen. We're here to guide you through the depths of spirituality and with the help of our amazing guests.
That's right, Christy. And in this podcast, we connect with experts from a vast array of different modalities, individuals who have mastered the art of self discovery and soulful growth. Today, we have the incredible Kasia with us.
Kasia is a past life healer, energy alchemist, and international Akashic Record reader. With a childhood that was more ordinary than mystical, Kasia believes that we all possess intuitive abilities that can be activated at any time in life.
She mentors people from all over the world on how to use these intuitive abilities and manipulate their own energy to create their desired human experience, bridging the gap between human and soul. Cassia uncovers her client's life purpose, heals past wounds, and breaks soul contracts, all while working with her astral team.
And Cassie is also the creator of a spiritual podcast called Soul Led, Spirit Driven, and has had a fascinating journey, transitioning from owning a lash studio to being a business coach for beauticians to now offering Akashic record readings and energy healings.
Her most favorite session is the Life Path session, where she dives into your soul's blueprint, revealing your soul's gifts, life lessons, past lives, starseed energy, and purpose.
We're thrilled to have Cassie here with us today. So let's dive into this free flowing conversation and explore the topics of intuition, Akashic records, past life soul contracts, and so much more.
Welcome, Cassia. Firstly, welcome to our show. It's so great to have you here with us.
Oh, thank you, Jen. Thank you, Christy. It's such an honor and pleasure to be in your company and get to bathe in your energy today.
Oh, thank
That's
you.
amazing. Thank you. What I'd love for you to do, Cassia, is share with us your personal journey and how you discovered your intuitive abilities and spiritual gifts, please.
Mm,
Mm.
that is, where do we start?
Right? How long's a piece of string?
I know, and unlike a lot of, I think, spiritual people, I don't have a journey that takes me back to I was born this way. I could always see spirit, and I was very intuitive from a young age. For me, it started off as a typical normal child, and okay, my mum, my grandmother loved horoscopes, the pendulum, had tarot cards, and I just thought, this is normal. Everyone does that. And because everything was kept in house in our home, I had my own little tarot deck, but I was told don't take it out. Now, I come from a country that is very religious, Catholics, and so growing up, and we moved around Europe a little bit, but each and everywhere we went, my mum always said, don't take them outside. This is just for us. We just play here. And of course, as a child, if you're told not to do something, I mean, at least me, I did it. So I took it out. I, being this awkward outsider kid, always the new kid, always a foreigner,
Mm.
this was my way of getting, uh, like 15 minutes in a spotlight. And so
Mm.
kids would come. I should probably say I was probably somewhere between 10 and 19 when this was happening. So kids were coming, my friends were coming, the word spread. And I thought I'm just, telling stories. I'm just, just this one like, yes, no, this and this is going to happen, right? And then things started to happen. So more people were coming, I mean, more kids. And at this stage, we still thought it's just fun.
Mm.
Like if it said, don't go to school, you'll be asked by a teacher, we didn't go to school. Anyways, as we got older, more things were coming true that I probably, or a trained tarot reader shouldn't probably say, and they were quite darkish. So as a teenager, 18, 19, it freaked me out a little bit because I thought I jinxed people because I thought everything's up and then it happens. So I closed that off. And for majority of my adult life, I was just, a lash technician and, business coach, had many different things, trying to find my way, became a mum. And then somewhere around 2019, 2020, after the passing of my dad, I was very desperate to connect with him. And so I participated in sessions, psychic sessions, and then I did this meditation session with my husband and my friend. And I hoped to connect with him, but instead I started seeing past lives, my husband's past lives, my friend, and they were telling me, you got to share it with them. And I shared it, thinking, God, they're going to think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
My husband at that stage was into Kriya Yoga. So, he was open to it. It's not like it was completely foreign, but past lives, I never had anything to do with past lives. So I'm sharing all this stuff and everything's making sense. He's understanding himself. My friend goes, oh my God, this is why this and this happened. And so that was probably like this huge awakening that, then led me down this path of finding mentors, teachers, who then, the first psychic I went to, she said, you can do this as well. You can do mediumship. You've got the gift. You just got to dive into your family history. So that's where my next breadcrumb was. And when I dived there, it turns out that apparently my mum had the gift. My grandma had the gift. Now, they have passed away. So I can't check in with them in the physical world here. But what that led me to is that I am now the 6th generation of psychics. So my mom, my grandma were closeted once. And I don't know whether they felt this urge, this being drawn to this, but not fully, I don't know, opening up. They never did anything for any clients. We never had anyone come for sessions. It was just very much in-house. But yes, it was beautiful then unfolding that led me back, breadcrumb by breadcrumb to uncover bits and pieces of my story that I wasn't aware of growing up. And then an aunt comes forward and says, oh, this makes sense that, when you were 5, you had these invisible friends and they seemed so, like the way I was describing them, from a 1920s paper boy or, I always thought you have a very vivid imagination now. It makes sense. So that's my journey, but it was these breadcrumbs that then I started looking back and I'm like, oh, okay, there was a sign. But yes.
Beautiful.
That's when we got here.
Yeah, and I love that you were talking like about the past lives and how you connected and how it's really interesting how we can do something like a meditation for one purpose with the intention, like for you, is like reaching your father or connecting again with, the spirit or soul of your father. But then what actually happened was something so much greater. It's like you access this energy, right? This, whatever we want to call it, the energy, the space, and then all of this other stuff came flooding through. So tell me, past life healing and Akashic Records are a fascinating topic. Could you explain to our audience what they are and how they can serve us on our spiritual path?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I feel very privileged and fortunate that I had this particular journey because I never, I was never into past lives. I never even heard of or entertained this notion or Akashic Records. So even as these past lives were coming through, I still couldn't piece the pieces of the puzzle together. Like, where am I getting this from? And so I had this wonderful teacher who goes, you're tapping into the Akashic Records. And she was telling me a little bit about it. But what didn't make sense to me was, everyone says you have to go into a library. Everyone says you have to use a prayer. And I didn't do that. And we had this running joke between her and I that I must be going through the back door. But the thing is, as soon as you start sort of awakening and realizing, oh, there's a little bit more to you, perhaps you have these intuitive gifts, you feel like, no, I can't be this special. I can't be able to take, because we put spirit, we put, medium psychics on a pedestal. So we think, wow, that's them, but I can't be like that. And so I embarked on this journey of learning about Akashic Records from teachers who, I held in high regards. And what I've learned is that the Akashic Records are everywhere. They're all around us. So yes, for some, it is easier to go into a so-called library because they're very visual beings and they need a place to go to. But really, it is a state of consciousness. You just shift your way of being or perceiving things to a different level of energy. And you're able to tap into what has been also called Book of Life, right? Or this grand library. And it's interesting because I have learned through the Akashic Records that it is a birthright to be able to access our book. It's like the manual we left behind, and then we get to tap in to kind of receive guidance, to receive understanding why things have happened in our life, why we attract certain people into our life, why we get stuck in certain patterns. And so the Akashic Records are really remarkable. And again, then I had this memory come back to me from my school days when we had religion. And I remember when we were naughty, the nun, we had this sister that was teaching us, and she would say, if you keep behaving like this, God is going to mark this in this book of life. He's going to make a note. Now, she told us a little bit of a fib because it's not God who keeps the tally, but we write our own records, right? Yeah. Through our thoughts, our beings, our decisions. We keep a record. So we're the ones contributing to the Akashic Records. But everywhere, they're all around us. It's just a matter of learning how to shift your energy or your perception to that state of consciousness.
Wow.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's so...
I've got it.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Tick. Go. I just had a question that I just wanted to ask, just around how it can serve us. Like, for those of us going through a spiritual awakening, what would I gain from accessing that?
So many people think this is a place to go to know what awaits me, what is my future, what is my purpose. And the thing is, and I've learned this through the Akashic Records, a future is not set in stone, and there's multiple timelines. And, yes, you can access information and see what is available to you, because you are in this state, in this energy, you're traveling down this road. If you want to go onto this timeline, this is what you need to do. So what you gain from the Akashic Records is, first of all, it's a feeling of like coming home, elevated love, unconditional love. So sometimes just going into the Akashic Records because you had a really terrible day and you feel like, I don't see the purpose in all this, like what is happening? And then you go up there and you are surrounded by this immense love. And all of a sudden you see everything from above and you're like, oh, it's actually not that bad. Everything's going to be fine. You can understand relationship dynamics. So perhaps you grew up in a home where one or both of your parents didn't give you love. Perhaps they were narcissists, perhaps they were alcoholics or abusive, and you can understand why this happened to you. You can see your life lessons and their life lessons. The only thing is, when you go up into the Akashic Records asking these questions, you want to ask from your perspective, what do I need to know from this? You can't say, why was my mum an alcoholic and abusive to me? Because that is her record, her story. But asking what do I need to know about this relationship can show you actually, and then all of a sudden it feels like your soul, your heart is expanding and you have perhaps compassion for this human that is here to learn their own lessons. So we heal through the Akashic Records. We gain this deeper understanding of our purpose here and what it is. For me, for example, when I do my sessions, the big blueprint session, I go in and I ask specific things like your life lessons, your soul gift. I ask for your starseed energy, whether you are an earth soul or a star traveler. And so all this information that I'm getting is gives you sort of this deeper understanding of who you are. Because I believe, when we're born into this physical body, we get so trapped in this limited pattern, this physical limited pattern, and we believe this is all there is. The wounds, the pains, the suffering, that's all there is to me. And then that's just the tip of the iceberg. And then underneath you've got all this other stuff. So when we uncover all these things like that, perhaps your gifts, your abilities that you've had that carried through many, many lifetimes, you all of a sudden have a deeper understanding of self, but appreciation for how amazing you are.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. I've never really understood the Akashic records, but to me it feels like, when I access source energy, I call it there's this what I call the slipstream, which is this flow of consciousness that we all have access to. And listening to you speak, I feel like that's the same space.
Christy, I actually believe we're all tapping into the same sea of consciousness, of source. We can call it different things, but that's what it is. And this is why I always struggled once I Googled, like, what are the Akashic records? And everywhere you saw the library and the pathway prayer. And I struggled with that because as soon as I tried to go up into a library, I wasn't getting anything. But when I'm sitting in a session or when I do my practice, things come through. And the same is for you, right? You're tapping in. So it's not like you and I get separate sources where our information comes from, but everyone else is going,
No, it's the same. It's like, I've taught Reiki grandmasters and great grandmasters, and the healing energy that they channel through is also the same energy that we access. It's what we've discovered along the way. And I just think we all access it with a different intention. That's it. Like, you're getting blueprints and past lives and like more sort of information to help them with the healing. When I access, I'm getting direction and guidance. When Reiki practitioners are accessing, they're accessing it with the intention of like drawing healing energy. And it's to me, like, the more I have these really juicy discussions, it's not separate. Like, it is creation itself, right? And we are part of that. It's flowing through us. This omnipresent energy is just showing up in different ways depending on the intention that we use for it.
Absolutely. And this is why we are not special. You, Jan, me, we're not special than someone who is just awakening and trying to figure out what is happening. We're just unique. We have different abilities, but we're all psychic. We all have.
We all are. Absolutely.
And we need to let go of that old school paradigm where a few selected special people were the seers, the ones connected to God and no one else, really, because we all can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned on your website bridging the gap between human and soul. How can we better understand connection and harness its power ourselves?
Yeah, so it's actually in so we are these humans right here now in this earthly life, and we have the physical world. We go to school, we learn things, and we're conditioned, perhaps indoctrinated, whatever you want to call it. And we think that's all there is, okay? That's all there is. And I'm working from this limited pattern. But the moment you awaken, which again is one of the real purposes of souls coming down here, to awaken, and you start to realize, oh wow, I've got all these other senses aside from my physical senses. I've got the clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, all these other senses, and I'm able to see beyond the seen or hear beyond a spoken word with my outer ear. then are able to tap into this wisdom. And again, whether it's sea of consciousness, whether it's Akashic Records, whether it's angels, God, whatever we want to call it, but you're able to connect with that and receive information that goes beyond what your analytical mind can do. So our analytical minds work at a very limited pattern, right? It's usually memories, experiences, things we have learned, and then opinions of other people. But when you tap into your intuition, when you tap into this sea of consciousness, you are able to see beyond all that, beyond the pattern, beyond, it's like Einstein said that knowledge takes you from A to B, but imagination takes you everywhere, or intuition takes you everywhere. Like he said that. And so I really feel that that's what we're doing. We're just becoming this more authentic, expanded self. I always sort of think, only the bravest souls come down here to earth, because nowhere else do you have this sort of duality. Nowhere else do you have to live in a world that is, filled with ego and free will, right? Like free will, everyone gets to do what they want. And we have, we navigate through this life in 4 ways: our physical body, our mind, our emotions, and our spiritual body. So only the brave souls come down here. And I compare it often to like climbing Mount Everest. If we wanted to climb Mount Everest, you wouldn't just go, all right, let me just put on a pair of Converse and off I go, right? You would have your equipment, your tools, right? Your soul senses, your intuition. And you would get probably some Sherpas to help you, right? Our guides. And again, if you work with angels, if you work with ascended masters, goddesses, whatever you believe in, it's just the energy that comes in that formation for you. I hope this makes sense.
Beautiful. Yeah, it totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. Many of our listeners at the moment might be going through a spiritual awakening and seeking their life's purpose. How do you, what advice would you give them? How would they uncover their life's purpose and start navigating that transformative journey?
So I can only really share this with the viewers or the listeners from my perspective, from my own experience. I don't ever want to say this is how it is. So please put it through your own filters, and if it resonates, it resonates. But if it doesn't, just put it away, because I know that you will find your authentic way to navigate through this. But here is what was really interesting for me. I thought that purpose is like the destination, like God said, Kasia, you're going to be here as a doctor or a lash stylist, right? And but I don't want to be a lash stylist anymore. So that means that's it, right? But instead, what I've learned is that a purpose is this ongoing journey. Really, your soul comes down here for 3 reasons: to learn, to awaken, and then to help others. And however you want to make this, what's it called, fit into your life, no one says you have to be a psychic and work with tarot here. So that's not your purpose. So what I would say is, when you start to feel like you're losing your marbles and what you knew yesterday no longer feels aligned, it doesn't, and you start, it feels like a veil has lifted, then I would basically start to go into meditation, sit for 5 minutes even, and just go within. Often we go out and we're like, I need a teacher, I need someone to help me, I need to have some answers, I need to Google it. And there's so much information out there. So what I would do is I would start going within and just close your eyes, turn down the analytical mind, and just listen and just observe what is coming through. And then I would ask questions, like, what do I need to know today? Automatic writing is fantastic for that, right? Yeah. Automatic writing.
That is my go-to. Like, what do I need to know today that will serve me to my highest purpose? I that's one thing in all my programs. And like, you don't have to have a million journal prompts. Like, if you just ask that every single day, unless you've got something going on for you, and you like, just listen to what comes through. And the space that comes through is the same space that I tap into, the same space you tap into for Akashic Record. Like, it's the same flow that comes through us, and we're already listening to it. Like, I think there's like this humanness in us that wants to overcomplicate things and experience things. I talk about the experience of connecting is like in the invisible sense. It's not like we physically touch or feel or see or hear. It's like the way we recall, right? And it's like there's like an invisibility about it, but it's still there. And that's that flow that's coming from source. Go within.
Go within, because this is the other thing that often I find when I teach psychic development. There's usually two things that hold us back. Either a fear of connecting to spirit, because we've been told that's dangerous, that's bad.
Yes.
It's not. You're a being of love and light. You have good intentions. Bad juju doesn't stick to you. Number two that we're worried about is, but who exactly am I talking to? What does my guide look like? What is his name or her name? And the thing is, and I've been told this many times because this used to be me. They said, you're wasting your time and energy on the wrong thing. You're focusing on the wrong thing. Just experience the energy. How do you feel afterwards? If you do a meditation or Akashic Records or, whatever it is, automatic writing, how do you feel afterwards? Does it expand? Does it make you feel better?
Yeah, it's an expansive or contractive.
Right. And then with time, you will either see your guides, you will feel them, or if you're not meant to, then you will just know that you're connected, right? You are connected. You are. So
it's a journey into trust, right?
It is. And because as humans, we are so like, things have to happen fast. I need the answers now, we want to get from A to B so fast. That's not how it works with the spirit world. It's almost like this remembering, and it has to happen in its own time. It's like a baby learning to stand up and walk. There isn't a set date and time for them to happen, and they will fall down, right? And they still don't give up, keep getting up.
They don't give up.
And the same as for us. There is no set time. It will happen in your own time. But one last thing, if I can say about purpose, that I have learned, that it is, if you follow your bliss and happiness, so whatever brings you that bliss and happiness, you will be on the right path of living on purpose. So again, it's not a destination, right? It is this unfolding journey. And if you go like, but how do I know? Just follow that bliss and happiness trail, and you can't go lost. You won't get lost.
I love that.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So we've actually got a comment in the chat that I wanted to kind of mention. Ashley has actually said, it's funny to me now that I'm understanding more of what's been going on with me. These things actually have names and I'm not crazy. Lol. So just sharing this information is making a big impact on people around us. So that's important to mention. Also, when it comes to soul contracts, vows and past life wounds, and like they can have a significant impact on our present lives. How do you help your clients heal these with the energetic blueprints?
So first of all, I make them aware that karma is not what we have been led to believe, and just because you lied to your parents when you were a kid, you will not come back as a gruggy bug or something, or a cockroach. Okay, that's not how it works. The universe is not punishing you.
I love it.
Karma is different. It's more like Groundhog Day, but the soul doesn't see it like, oh, great, I've been punished again. I've done something wrong. It's more the soul wants to experience different things. And from the human perspective, we can kind of go like, well, why would my soul have chosen to suffer or be stuck in this horrible relationship, right? Or live in poverty? But you have to see, to a soul that is neutral, that doesn't play with, oh, this is good, this is bad. Our ego likes to categorize things like that. But a soul is here for the experience. It's like you're an actor and you come into the theater and the director goes, all right, I've got a couple of roles. You can pick what you want. Do you want to be the villain? Do you want to be the victim? Do you want to be the hero? And you're like, you know what? Today, this time let me play the hero, right? And you experience it and you get to, see it. So when I work with my clients around soul contracts, I really want them to understand that nothing is set in stone, and it's more, when we tap into your soul contract, it's more to understand why this is happening to you, why this is affecting you, why do you keep selecting the wrong partners or the wrong situations. There is a pattern because your soul is trying to learn something and it hasn't. So once we become aware of this, like 80% of our job is done. Like becoming aware of it is already a big thing. And then what you want to do is you want to look, sort of narrow it down, so zoom in. So this is where we go into the past lives, or we go into, or you know, like what is the recurring theme? What keeps coming back? You know? And this could be perhaps that you don't feel worthy. So that's where we look at life lessons as well. So it's a bit of a process, but in like that session, the life path session, I bring stuff to my clients. So I say I don't want actually even your name. Like I mean, you know, I don't want photos. I don't want anything. I'm gonna bring you the information. I pre-channel it, and then I'm gonna bring you. So I'm gonna shower you with all this information, and then we can go deeper. And you can tell me, okay, that thing you said about life lessons and someone being a guide here or clashing with me, I think I know who it is. Can we dive into that? So we dive into specific areas. But yes, it has a lot to do with everything is energy, right? So we can
everything
change
is
things.
energy. Everything is energy. I've got a few, just from what you've just said, I've got a few questions. Oh my gosh, where do I start? I should have written these down. But you know, the last one that's really sort of speaking to me is, you know, I've done past life regressions with clients before where I guide them back, but in saying that, I've actually accessed past lives accidentally. Not accident. I don't think anything's accidental, but maybe unexpectedly through readings, and you know, gotten a lot of information for them that has actually healed them for the intention that the thing that they're coming for guidance and direction around. There's been like a pattern. It sounds like to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that you actually access this information for your clients and bring, so they don't have to go back into their past life. You access all of this in their Akashic records. Is that correct? Is that how that works?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we do go into a session. I'm not a past life regressionist, so I wouldn't sort of want to muddle up someone who was trained in it and say, oh yeah, this is so, you know, I know it's quite a journey. But if we are in the Akashic records and they say we need to go there, then we'll go on this little journey. But really what it is, and then like we change things in it, but really what it is becoming aware of it. So sometimes most of the time I tap in and I get like this story and I can see it unfolding, and then all of a sudden it stops, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then you go, okay, that's it. You don't need to know more. So maybe it's something traumatic that this person wouldn't be able to process, but they're like, that's enough. You just needed to become aware. And it was really interesting to me because I always go, it takes me sometimes an hour to write an Instagram post, and yet I can sit in a session, tap into someone's energy and his past lives.
Just like that.
Yeah, probably exactly what you were doing.
Yeah, beautiful. The other thing that I just want to speak to is that you said, I don't want to know anything about this person before I connect. Is that what you did? Did I hear that correctly? When I do my readings, I much prefer reading for people I don't know, because I feel like when I connect, that energy is cleaner.
Yeah.
Because there's no, like, there's actually no, and it's not so much even a mental, sometimes it can be sort of a mental sort of attachment, but even an energetic attachment, right? Where the energy is already starting to read the person. I feel like the energy is a lot cleaner when I connect in that space.
Because I don't know if it happens for you, Jen and Christy, but for me, I find if I read for a friend, first of all, I feel like my mind is trying to look for answers. So I can tell the difference now.
Totally.
Like things are coming, and here, it's trying to look for answers. Sometimes it's something where with someone that I don't know. Now, I'm someone who doesn't like to pry, or like I would never. If you told me my husband so and so, I would never say, "Oh, that bastard, we need to leave him" or whatever. Like, I would be never that friend, right? But
Yeah.
sometimes in a session, things come out, not in such words,
Yeah.
but they come out. And it took me a while to kind of go like, oh, because we're not supposed to judge this information or hold back. It's not for me to decide whether you need to receive this or not.
No.
So that was really hard for me. But I had to do a little bit with my friends in order to kind of learn, okay, because friends are really hard. Like because you know their partners and stuff. And so that's when I noticed the difference. I prefer people that I don't know than friends. And then also it's a different dynamic with friends. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I have a rule, a really hard boundary. I don't read for friends. So if a friend comes to me and says, hey, Christy, I've got this thing going on, and I'm like, I already know what's going on. I know I already have a judgment and an opinion. And they're like, can you please just do a reading for me? Can you give me some answers? And what I will say to them is this: look, I'm not going to connect and read for you, but what I will do is you tell me if you want 1, 3, or 5 cards. I'll connect to Spirit. I will ask Spirit to channel a message through the cards that is clear enough for you to understand. And I will send you a photo. Or if we're in the presence of them, then, I draw them and we do that. But that, like, to me, I know my judgment. I know my opinion. I still feel like sometimes when I connect, I feel like now I'm more trusting of what's coming through. But I'm so close to the person that I really cannot honestly say that I can fully discern between the two, right? And then I feel like, in a way, if I also am aware that we're all on our own journey, and I don't want to feel like I have interrupted or held them back from their journey because of information that I've given them, with them trusting that it's from Spirit, when really it has the potential to be my own opinion or judgment disguised as Spirit, because our ego can get quite deceptive at times, right? It can come in and speak to us in a way, when it's holding us back. Like, it can come into me and say this, I am Spirit, this is what you should say.
Especially with loved ones, because there's that emotional bond.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And our ego is going to be quite loud to try and introduce, because we just want to keep us safe, but we also want to keep them safe. So, you're the first person that I've ever spoken to that actually that's spoken out loud exactly the reason why I connect. Like, I prefer to read for people I've never met before. Much, much prefer it.
And I do the cards as well for friends, because I feel like now you've got a visual. So
yeah, that's it. You're still giving them something, and we're still connecting to Spirit, but I'm just not influencing you with, potentially tainting that message with, and even if it is that flow from Spirit, there's still the potential to taint it with, tonality and, inflex into what we're saying.
It is. And it's also, I think, because we are more invested in those relationships than with a client. I mean, the worst case scenario, if a client can take what you're saying, or they don't like what you're saying, they can say, oh, well, she's bad or whatever, and move on. Whereas if it's your friend and you said something, then they will either do it, take it on board, or they won't, and then they'll be like, it's sort of like when a couple fights and you take sides and then they make up.
Totally.
You're like, oh, this is awkward now.
And you're like, oh, it's awkward now. Yeah, totally. I hear that. So, I've heard you mention, I think I might have read this, I don't know, I've heard you say this or read this on your website. You mentioned about co-creating with the universe and releasing old patterns. Could you share some practical tips on how our listeners can do this in their everyday lives?
Oh, I love talking about this, because we talk about manifesting, but I still feel like the way manifesting is being talked about is kind of like, please, can I have this? Can I, it makes us feel very small, like this small little human asking for things, and the universe will either give it to you or not. But co-creating, and this is what I've learned through the Akashic Records, is, that bit where you awaken and you help others, that is the co-creating bit, because you can have, let me give an example. Okay, you might want a new car, right? And so you think, okay, I'm trying to manifest this new car. But if you came to me and like, how can I manifest this car? The Akashic Records will tell me things that you need to do within yourself to change your energy so that you vibrate at the level of this car that is also energy. So it's not just writing a little wish list or creating a vision board. It is actually a long lasting effect that you have to create within yourself. So you actually have to change your energy field, your state of being. And this is where it gets a little bit deeper than just creating a vision board or just saying something 3 times out loud. So we have there's two parts to us. Quantum body or energy body and a physical body. A physical body is very dense, it's ruled by the head, the ego, and that one likes to stay within a pattern. You know, your ego doesn't want you to have a new car. It likes this car because having a new car could mean that people will now, you know, I don't know, think that you're better than them, you know, and so they will exclude you. A new car could mean, you know, you might potentially end up, you know, in a car accident because you don't know how to drive this car. So your mind just likes to keep you safe. And so it takes a little bit longer. So the affirmations, the vision board are good to get your head on board because it likes repetition and that's how we rewire it. But working on the quantum level is understanding that you co-create through your thoughts and your emotions. If you are someone who constantly says, "Oh, it's a crappy day. The sun is too hot. You know, so and so is mean to me. They always do this to me." You know, you will go through life and you will have more of those experiences because your energy matches, or sorry, the things that come to you match your energy. They're on the same frequency. Now, if you are someone who is positive, who, you know, it goes, you know, I mean, and this is where gratitude comes in play. Again, it's not that we are smaller, we should be grateful to gods or anything. It's more, it raises your vibration, it changes you. Yeah. So what can people do? I would say work on two things. Yes, have your vision board, have your, you know, scripting, if that's what you do, you know, do all that. That's good for your physical body, for your mind to get on board. But also work on your energy. Look at, and this is where imagination comes into play. And we say we first work in a conceptual world. Spend time dreaming, imagining these scenarios, these things that you want to call in. And don't go like, oh, maybe this could happen. No, you're going to be like that little kid that's writing a wish list to Santa. That little child does not go like, well, but how will Santa deliver it? Is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? No, they just write the list, they send it off, and that's it. It's done. This is why kids are powerful manifestors. My kids are like, woof, through the roof. Yeah. So you got to do that. You got to make sure every time when you feel like, oh, I don't know if this will happen. I don't know if I should be asking for this. Just forget about it and just go, you know what? I'm just going to go into this playful state. I'm just going to imagine. I'm just going to imagine a scenario where I have this already, or I am this already, or, you know, I have clients, or whatever it is that you want to call, and just use your imagination. And I always teach my clients, you have to suspend it in space and time. And this is really hard for us because if I have to pick a particular time in the year, let's say Christmas, right? And I'm seeing myself in this new car and I'm arriving at my in-laws for Christmas. Well, now the human feels uncomfortable because what if it doesn't happen by Christmas? And then I'm going to be disappointed. But the thing is, you're not doing this to mess with the human. You're doing this because we need to pin it somewhere. We're anchoring this energy in. Like, I'm not just swirling up here. This is really happening, and I'm placing it somewhere in my timeline. So that's what we need to do. And this is the scariest thing. Number one, get very clear on what you want, right? And get comfortable with it. Yeah. And number two, actually taking the time throughout your day, whether it's when you're doing the laundry, doing the dishes, or having a few minutes to just sit by yourself and start visualizing it like as this is already happening. And then complement it with your vision board, or, you know, writing it down, or affirmation.
I love that. I love that. One thing I talk about this, I just had this realization as you were speaking, that I actually teach people to co-create with the universe, because I believe with manifestation, you know, we have this world where it's like, I want this thing, and I want it now, or I want it in 10 days, but you actually have to do work to get there as well. But what I do is I invite people to use visualization and their imagination. And I say, because we do have these limiting beliefs. So I invite them to play in the realms of anything is possible. If you could have absolutely anything and you felt you were totally worthy of having it all, like if you could stretch your imagination, play in the realm of if anything was possible, what would that be? And I get them to close their eyes. I've got goosebumps. I get them to close their eyes. I'm like, right, bring all the 5 senses in, because smell is the one that locks it into our ego, right? Our subconscious mind. So what can you see? You've got the thing 10 years down the track. Look around you. Like, what is your life like? Where are you? Who are you with? What are you experiencing? What are you seeing? What do you hear? What can you reach out and like touch in your mind? What do you feel in your body? What can you what can you smell? What can you taste in your mouth? And I feel like that the locking it, you mentioned something then, locking it into that place in time. Can you talk to that? Like, how would I or am I locking that in that moment?
So, see, I love that you said, Christy, the smell, right? So that obviously is how you lock that in with your clients. Now, and I feel like that's fantastic as well. It's just another way of making it real. Okay, so we're not just swirling around and wishful thinking. I guess that's the difference, right? We're kind of going like, no, and I think Neville Goddard wrote a few books on this law of assumption. So that actually says, okay, Christmas. I'm not expecting it to happen on Christmas, but we got to, we're creating this scenario because you have to understand our soul in a pre-birthing session sits with the Council of 12 and they kind of map out this life, right? But I feel like it's like we create a road map for a road trip and we leave gaps in it. So we're like, okay, on our way from A to B, we want to stop here, we want to stop here, we want to stop here. And then, the soul goes into the body and we have this free will, and you might realize that, oh, actually this stop doesn't serve me there, the weather isn't right, oh, there's too many people, right? Like, so I don't want this, so we have these gaps, and this is where the human gets to plug it in through this co-creation by going, I would like this new car, and it has to look like this, and it has to be this color, and the smell of that new car.
Yeah, the smell of a new car.
Yeah, you gotta have that. And so if you don't know what that smells like, go to a dealer and smell it, right?
Yeah.
If you want to see yourself on an exotic island and you don't know the smells, go and smell some pineapples, some coconuts to really lock in those smells. So we picture a specific point on our timeline, okay? And that's basically you saying, okay, I'm anchoring this in. This isn't just my wishful thinking. I'm anchoring this in. And then you have to like feel it in your body, right? You have to like have these thoughts. So as soon as you have thoughts of maybe it won't happen, you kind of have taken a couple of steps back, bring yourself back to it. So I feel like it's exactly what you do by locking it in, because the sense of smell or taste are so particular. They're very right. So that's another way of locking it in. You go like, oh, that smell, I can smell it. Yes, it makes it real. It evokes that emotion, and the same is with the dates. It just evokes it in your body, because the thing is, I mean, the universe is expanding. We know this, and it's expanding through all of us. There's people I've worked with, clients who are grid workers, so they wouldn't consider themselves psychic or mediums or anything like that, but they are these nomads who like to travel, and they are drawn to particular places, and they go there and they meditate. They think they're doing it for themselves, but what they're doing is they're affecting the energy there because of the way they feel, the thoughts they have in that place. And that's what we're doing. So your thoughts, your emotions sends out this energy signal. Just think about when you're going on a holiday and you've booked that holiday in and it's coming in a week. That week up until that holiday, nothing can take you off that cloud nine. I mean, you can have people cutting you cutting in. You can have your boss yelling at you, and you constantly go, oh, just a few more days, and I'm gonna be there. And you can see yourself by the pool drinking, that pina colada or whatever. You can see it, you can smell it, and it makes you feel like, oof, elevated. So you can navigate through the next few days till you get there. The same as visualizing. So because the date of your holiday is that lock in, the smell, the taste of the cocktails, right? That makes it real. It creates that change in your energy. And that's what we're doing when we're co-creating and we're picking that date.
Love it. Yeah, beautiful.
So developing intuitive abilities can be empowering, right? So what are some steps our audience can take to tap into their own psychic senses?
Yes. So I'm sorry, but I'm going to start with meditate. And this doesn't have to be like a guru sitting on a mountain. It can be just 5 minutes sitting in silence and creating a space where you allow your higher self or guides or God to speak to you. And just notice what is coming up. What are you sensing? What are you feeling? The other thing is with intuition, I always sort of think it's best to start with non-emotionally charged things. So perhaps in the morning, just go, should I have an apple or a banana for breakfast, and just see how your body feels. And again, following that bliss and happiness, think about that apple. Does that feel like bliss and happiness, or does the banana feel like bliss and happiness? Wearing, your black suit or your colorful, crazy dress, what feels like bliss and happiness in that moment, in that day, and then listen to it. And when you get that feeling, so another interesting thing is that I just had a bird hit the window.
Oh no,
that little bird.
Poor bird.
So another thing is really getting in tune with your body. So people often think that intuition comes through your gut. That's just one of the ways. If you're claircognizant or clairsentient, you will feel it there. But if you're a visual person, if you're clairvoyant, you will have images. Or if you're, clairaudient, you will have a thought, go this way, turn left. And if you ignore it, what happens? What happens when you ignore it? So start small and just start with non-emotionally charged questions at first. So don't think the big life-changing things if you've never tapped into it, but just play with it. And the best way to explore it is when we suspend our physical senses, which happens in a meditative state. Close your eyes. You're not listening to anything, you're not responding to anyone, and just see what sensations come up into your awareness.
I love that.
Yeah,
when I actually tell people, when people come in and ask about yes/no questions, I like to say, okay, let's start by trying to do it within your body. Like, my name is Jen. I know that that's true. I know what that is. Is my name Christy? No. And feeling the difference and kind of practicing what that feels like. And then knowing that when you ask the questions, the deep ones, when you get better at it, that the answers, your body will actually tell you, your soul will actually provide the answers for you.
I love this so much. That is such a good way. That's like almost what we do with a pendulum, right? We ask questions. Pendulum, I believe, this could be just me, but I believe that a pendulum is like the physical representation of your higher self or your intuition, And when you're pushing for an answer, then I think you know the answer already. You don't need to keep coming back and waiting for the pendulum to say.
No.
Can I, Christy, there's a question here in Jen by Ashley. And it really intrigues me. Is it okay to?
Yeah, let me see if I can highlight. I've actually got this back now. We can put this across the bottom of the screen.
Yes, that one. What lesson have I not learned? This is so interesting because. So the question is, I'm interested in finding out why I keep coming back as a woman. What lesson have I not learned? And this is so interesting because it's not just why you keep coming back as a woman, but what is the pattern that you feel you are repeating throughout your life. So it could be perhaps around conformity or assertiveness or self-love, self-worth, inner strength. And it's interesting, Ashley, because as I promise I wasn't tapping into your energy, but now as I'm reading this, I feel like a lot of you've had past lifetimes, I feel, where you actually had to conform you had to conform, and it's like here you are now learning about inner strength, perhaps resilience, perhaps being independent, maybe. So it was just, this question was really jumping at me, so I really wanted to address it. So I would look at that. I would look whether that fits your patterns.
I love that. I love that. I wonder if that resonates with Ashley, if she's still here. She's been on, I think she's been on since we went live.
Yes.
Thank you for answering them. I'm just going to take that back off the screen. Beautiful. There was something else that I wanted to speak to. I think it's gone now. She's Ashley saying thank you. Beautiful. You're welcome. So how can women, speaking of women, how fitting is this question? How can women going through a spiritual awakening start to find balance between their spiritual and everyday responsibilities?
How can we find it? I think that for us women, and perhaps this is why we have chosen to come as women, a lot of it centers around self-worth and self-love, actually. And this is why an awakening is much harder than for men, even though, or navigating through an awakening is much harder. Because when you think about a lot of the gurus, they don't have families or children. They're usually either alone, or they have maybe a wife who is, you know, on the same sort of page, but they don't really have children. Whereas we women, most of us come with children, right? And then we go through this awakening. And I feel that when we start working with spirit, connecting to source, doing all that, you know, amazing epic work, we are being pushed into healing. We're being pushed into healing, into stripping back the layers, into really so much. And I think this, it doesn't really matter whether it's a man or a woman, but I feel like this is true for all of us. And for women in particular, challenging because we have to navigate through family life, right? We are navigating through family life, through nurturing our children. So I think I would start by actually making time for myself. You know, finding pockets of time to go for these walks or to meditate, to sit in, you know, in meditation for 5 minutes even. I would really just try to find these pockets of time so that you can invite healing, invite perhaps shadow work. And I know this is hard, but this is possibly maybe why you are awakening, to really force you to reconnect to you as a human, as a soul, not just you, the mum or the wife, the homemaker, or the businesswoman who goes to work and then comes home and looks after kids.
The roles we play.
Yeah, the roles we play. So
that become our identity, right?
Yes, and that's why it's harder for women, because, you know, I feel like as women, to find that time for yourself, you know, like I have so many clients who are so surface level, and they are so much like, oh no, I don't need to go back into the past. I don't need to heal anything. You know, my parents were like this, but I turned out fine, right? Yeah. And if it serves them and they can navigate through life like that, good on them. All right, if they can do it. But most of us, when we go through an awakening, all of a sudden it's like this explosion, and we don't know who we are. We don't know what's happened to us. We don't know why all of a sudden all this murkiness is coming up. And so if you try and push it back, being this awakened soul, it's going to come and bite you in the bum. So I feel like when you awaken as a woman, it is hard, but it's an invitation to clear a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You just
to me, it's like, it's all about, you know, working through that, because I don't believe we're broken. I believe that we just have stagnant energy that is locked inside because we have such a dense body, and there's memories and things that get sort of trapped into these stagnancies, and the awakening helps us, or gives us the opportunity to dive into that stagnancy and unstagnate that energy and just help it, because we are just energy. Like when we sort of zoom out and like really look at what we are, we're just energy, right? So it's more about just opening up the channels and connecting to the flow. And as you were speaking there, something actually really powerfully dropped in for me about women. So a lot of the women that I see and that I help through going, navigating this spiritual awakening and understanding their psychic abilities and intuitive abilities are women that have really stepped into the masculine, right? And have spent a lot of their life avoiding the feminine part of them. And actually, when we tune into the energy of spirit, the flow from spirit, to me, that's really pure feminine energy, right?
Yes.
So it's almost like I feel like the pain is almost like this part of us that's trying to resist stepping into this truer version of ourselves and embracing a part of us that we've rejected for so long. That just like really powerfully landed for me when you were speaking then.
So brilliant. I had goosebumps listening to you, Christy, say this, because it is, I mean, we are diving into areas that have, we haven't been taught about feminine, masculine energies at school or any of that, right? You are just very much kept in a certain pattern that fits,
in a box.
Yeah. And so,
in conformity.
Yeah,
right?
And this is why an awakening for a woman, pardon me, is so much harder, because it is very much like Ashley said, that the person you thought you were no longer exists, right? And it crumbles down. It just crumbles down. And then you still have to go like, am I still a good mom? Am I still, doing enough? Like that is just that added pressure that we have.
Yeah.
So definitely not
beautiful.
easy.
That would speak to so many of our listeners, by the way, that conversation.
So many.
So connecting with guides and the astral teams sound quite intriguing to me. What are some ways to establish and strengthen that spiritual connection?
I think, again, just coming back, letting go of like what you think this connection, or like who you're connecting with, or like if you set the intention, I only am here for benevolent beings or beings of love and light, that is enough. We don't need to know, oh, it's an older man or a Buddhist, or it's this Egyptian lady that's coming through, because that's your analytical mind coming in. So I would actually just again go into meditation, sit in silence 5 minutes and just really start to explore. And it's very much what you said, Jen, as well, what you do with your clients, where you kind of get them to feel it in their bodies. And that's what it is, that awareness of energy, what's mine, what's them. Ask your guides, come in closer, step away, right? Like, come in closer, let me feel what that feels like. And now step away, let me see what that feels like. Asking questions. I am big on asking for evidence. I've been training as a evidential medium for the last 2 years, and our teacher was big on symbols, on signs, on evidence. And so I always say to my students, ask them to show you a sign, ask them to show you, like, show me this. If you're here to guide me, show me, and then see what pops up first, and that's the sign. If you see a rainbow, go like, okay, I want to see a rainbow, right?
Yep.
And the trick is though to remember, because I've had students who then forget what they've asked for or why they asked.
That's right.
So that's another thing that we need to remember.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that. So yeah, the piece about going in as well to me is, I know you said this a couple of times, and again, it's reaffirming to me about, that intuitive flow, because people often say, how do I tune into my intuition? It's actually going within. Like, we have a subtle energy body that is constantly flowing through us. To me, that is what is connected to this source energy, this, the space where you find the Akashic Records, Reiki healing, like that sort of omnipresent energy, right, is flowing through us. And when we go within, when we not so much quieten the mind, but, when we give the mind something to do to sort of help those thoughts just start to calm and ease, we can start to feel and sense that intuitive flow, that energy body, right? That's inside of us.
Absolutely. So good.
Yeah, definitely key. And getting curious too, right? Like, you know, if you receive a sign, it's like, well, what is it? We don't have to go on a wild goose chase to try and work out the answer. Just ask.
Yeah.
Like, get curious. Stay curious.
Stay curious. And there's a little thing that we are learning now is it's good to have boundaries. So if you have good boundaries with people, boundaries are good, but don't have borders. And often we have this resistance, this wall that we put up, which could be fear. It could be, you know, some preconceived notions of what working with spirit is or should look like. We get hung up on, well, I can't see spirit like so and so, so maybe I'm not connecting to the right source. I thought when that first psychic said, you can do this, you can do mediumship, you're psychic, I thought I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night and see a spirit like Patrick Swayze standing next to me, speaking in full sentences, telling me all this guidance, and instead it's like a game of charades.
It is. And you know, speaking of Patrick Swayze in Ghost, like, hello, I'm totally open to that experience, just saying.
Especially if it's Patrick Swayze.
But, right, I do like a bit of wheel throwing and pottery there. But, you know, all that aside, I think it's really important. Like, this is the other block for me as a psychic development coach that I see people have is the attachment, thanks Hollywood, right? That this is what it needs to look like. And when they don't experience it this way, people are so disappointed and they feel like they're such a failure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're not actually, like, this is still flowing through them, right? The clairvoyance and the intuition and that psychic is still flowing through them, but because they're so fixated on the way that it should be and they have this attachment, they're actually not allowing themselves to be open to the way that because we all experience it differently, right? So yeah,
so true. And look, in saying that, I had the globe in my lamp explode, I had candles explode, I had something move on the desk, but it wasn't because I was sitting there like focusing and like, come on spirit, if you're here, you do this now, right? It just happened because they were able to bring that energy down and you know, create something. And in, you know, most of it happened in group sessions because that's how powerful group sessions are. Like even our energies here together today. It's super powerful. I know I'm going to be like,
this is why I prefer group programs as opposed to one-on-one, because there's a transmission that happens when one person learns. It sends this ripple effect out inside the group. And with, like, for me, my current group, there's like I think 22 souls that are taking a journey with me for 4 months. You know, if each time each and every one of those have like an awakening or a learning or, you know, an understanding, there's something energetically that just goes like, and it is so powerful, like to witness that. It's amazing. It's that collective energy.
Yeah, I love those settings. And I know that, I mean, I just feel so much love and energy here in this space now. I'm just glad it's daytime because I feel like I'll be bouncing through my day now.
Totally. I think we've only got a few questions left, but I mean, I could just speak, like, I just, these conversations are so juicy and soul inspiring. I love it. My next question for you is, as someone who has experienced a major awakening, what advice would you give your listener who might be feeling a bit overwhelmed or unsure about their own journey?
You're not going crazy. You're not losing your marbles. People around you might think that, but that's okay. That's their journey. I would say you know, like all your senses, when they're coming in, when they're opening or activating, it is going to feel uncomfortable and you might feel things and see things and experience things, but at the same time, it's an exciting journey because you are one of the lucky ones who has actually awakened. So many people in this lifetime will not awaken. And, you know, they'll miss out on this extra stuff that you get to see. It's it's exciting. It's like looking at a 3D, those magic eye pictures, and you get to see that image behind it. So I just think enjoy it, take it day by day. Don't rush into anything. Don't feel like you have to now go and seek teachers and people and ask, because you could ask 10 different people and each one will tell you a different thing to do and what you're experiencing. I would say again, going within. This is where we want to practice going within. And my first teacher said to me, when I started receiving like starseed information or anything from the Akashic Records, she goes, don't go Googling it now, because you will get the knowledge that someone else channeled, but it will not, you won't be able to discern what is coming through authentically. So she actually told me first, ground this information for yourself, receive this information. Like I had her to bounce ideas off, but that's why, don't go looking too much into this, because it will be really, really hard for you to kind of see, where do I fit in? Because this is a very unique, different experience for everyone. So instead, what I would do is just sit in silence. And again, if you have one person that you trust, one coach or one mentor, go to them, work with them. Obviously, they resonated with you for a reason. But other than that, I would just play with this, just see what you can do.
Yeah, I love that. The importance of having a guide or a coach, like it's just having counsel, really, like someone that can that's maybe been through the journey before or is experienced with tools that can support you. Because the other thing that I find, I think this is actually really important to speak to, is that in this space, I find that, people that move through this space have actually got a lot of trauma. And it's really important that if you are one of those people, that if you do decide to reach out and seek help, it's really important to make sure that you find someone that is at least trauma informed. And if you feel like you need to get coaching or support around that trauma, then you actually really need to find a trauma therapist that specializes in the form of trauma that has
and someone who you
been
trust as well, like someone
totally.
who you trust, because that's the other thing. If something feels off, it's absolutely fine to cancel them and go to someone else, because you want to resonate with them. Resonance is very big.
Totally.
With people, and because you're trusting them with such raw and personal information, right? You want to feel safe, vulnerable.
Yeah, beautiful.
So you mentioned the importance of seeing the bigger picture previously, beyond our human experience, right? So how can we gain a perspective and transcend our current challenges with that?
Jen, could you say this again? I really want to feel it in my body before I say anything that might not resonate.
So looking beyond the bigger picture when it comes to our human experience, how can we gain perspective and transcend any challenges that we might be facing, like getting past those?
Okay, so I would say that this is where it's good to know that you're not just a human, but you're a soul, big, big soul that doesn't really fit into this whole body. And that you can, on anything, have a human perspective and a soul perspective. And when you go up a level to the soul, to get that soul's perspective, you will see things differently. You will see the bigger picture. Now, I work a lot with guides, although that group of guides are called to me as echo, and I see them as, I am down here in this physical world in the valley, and they're sitting on these mountains, and they can see a little bit further ahead, and they can just kind of go like, oh, yes, you're feeling stuck here now, just hang in there. There's, an oasis around the corner, or, this person that you clash with, they carry a lot of, unhealed wounds, perhaps, or stuff that they can't see. So whenever I go up a level and I go into my soul's perspective or talk to my guides or go into the Akashic records, basically anywhere but here from this level, I can get that overview, and I can see a little bit further ahead, and I can see perhaps to the side, and I can see that human being. It's like watching a show, you watch a show and you've got, there was this show, Dexter, for example. I don't know if you, and so, if you only saw what, let's say, the criminals saw or what the police saw, you would have a different view of who Dexter is. But because as a viewer, you get to see him at home, you get to see him, in all these other scenes, you see all of him, right? You see all of him. You don't see him just as the criminal. And they bounce back to his childhood and, all this stuff. And that's what happens when you gain that soul's perspective. You get to see all of it, all these perspectives. It's difficult even for us to try and box ourselves into a particular thing, like I'm this or I'm that, I'm an introvert, or I'm an artist, or I'm a coach. Because, and this is why I have even so many titles, or, and I change them sometimes because the energy feels a little bit different, because I'm like, well, how do you capture everyone, like your whole being into a few words, right? Yeah. So there's so many aspects of you, and if you go up a level, you will be able to see all of it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love that. What I took from that is when you sort of go up into that, you're transcending the ego, right? So you're kind of taking the perspective of looking out from above and becoming just the observer of everything and you're kind of removing all the human filters that we have in life to filter everything through.
Absolutely.
So when you can, I suppose what I hear you saying is when you are able to transcend that and become the observer and come from a place of more loving awareness rather than, because I suppose that, sometimes shitty people do shitty things in our lives, right? So, I hear this thing about forgiveness and acceptance, and it's not saying I forgive this person. It's more, coming from loving awareness to me is removing that ego, transcending it, noticing without those filters that sometimes hurt people, or not most of the time, hurt people. There's a reason people do the things, and I'm not making excuses for that, but it helps us understand so we can come to terms with and accept this shitty thing happened to me. I'm deciding that I need to find a gift in this or a lesson. And when I can find that gift or lesson, I can actually move forward rather than get stuck in the past. And that being stuck in the past to me is what you were speaking about before. And, when I was talking about that stagnant energy, that's that stagnancy, right? Yeah.
So to make it a bit more practical, I guess, because I don't mean, when I say go up high, right? Often people think I have to leave my body, or where do I go?
No.
Go into the library. It's not that. It's to give you an example. A few years ago, when my dad passed away, so our family, I mean, gosh, if there was a psychologist who just graduated, if he just worked with my family, my extended family, he would be like this covered till his retirement. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of conflicts and a lot of wounded souls. And here is the thing. There were two family members that I said to my aunt that I love. And I said, I don't want them at the funeral. I don't want them. They're horrible. I know if my dad had a party, there's no way he would want to be in the same room with them. So I said that to her, and she's very spiritual, and she's the one who initially taught me meditation and yoga. And she said, you know what? You just have to forgive them. I'm like, are you crazy? I'm not forgiving them. She says, you have to forgive them because you don't want this in your energy field. Now, this was pre-Kasia's awakening. So I was like, okay, she has lost her marbles. I love her, but she has lost her marbles. There's no way I'm doing this, right? So a few years go by, and I have done a lot of work, not really going and healing anything there, but just working in the Akashic Records, elevating that energy. Just every time I go up, I just learn something new, right? Whether it's for myself or my clients. And so what happened was, all of a sudden, one day, literally I woke up and I'm like, I understand what she meant. Like, because we are all from the same source. We all come from the same, let's say, body of water. It's just that this one
Mm-hmm.
ended in a cup as coffee, this one ended in a bowl as soup. We're all the same. So this is something that I can't tell you when and how to gain that perspective, but I promise you that the more you do this
Mm,
work, the more you're using your soul senses and going beyond what your eyes see, what
mm,
your ears hear, you will at some point go like, oh my gosh, it's not that I'm better than them, but I feel for
mm,
them. I have this compassion for them. They don't know any
yeah.
better. I know I can see within myself when I've done something shitty. I can go like, oh wow, that wasn't kind, that wasn't nice, that wasn't my intent,
Yeah.
perhaps. But they can't see it. So
No.
all I can do is just send them love. And I have a client who goes, she has been through so much, and she goes, I can't forgive them. I can understand, but I can't forgive them. And we always have this interesting conversation about it because I feel that her word for forgiveness is understanding, but
Mm,
that's her journey, right? But it's when you can actually forgive this person, no matter how much they hurt you, you are releasing this huge burden from your own energy. You're sending it
mm,
up, and it is really, really freeing. But I can tell you, you have to do this. You have to come to this discovery, I guess. You have to find this for yourself. There will be a point,
mm,
because you're doing spiritual work, there will be a point as we ascend where you will be, this no longer bothers me. This person, I can
mm.
see where that's, happening.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. So, before we finally wrap up today, can you tell us more about your podcast, Soul Led, Spirit Driven? What inspired you to start it, and what can the listeners expect when they tune in?
I just wanted to waffle on uninterrupted and then just put it there and go, you know what, here it is, listen to it. Um, Seriously though, I think it's a guide that I think if I was first going through my awakening, I would have appreciated it. I tried
Mm,
to talk a little bit about guidance that I received from the Akashic Records that can help someone going through their awakening, through their psychic development when they want to connect, through understanding how to navigate through this life as this human, this
mm,
beautiful soul in a human body. So yes, I tried to mix it up and sort of bring, I guess, just any information that can serve anyone going through this whoopsie awakening where we don't know what's happening. We're trying to find.
yeah. Beautiful.
Amazing. So, lastly, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners? Any upcoming events or projects or additional resources that they can connect with you on?
Well, I don't know when we are running this, but since we are live here, we are currently in the Lionsgate portal, and that is a very sacred time for myself, even because I had a lot of
Mm,
upgrades, spiritual upgrades. So I will have a Lionsgate session or ceremony on Lionsgate 8 of the 8th, online, and so that's a big event. Aside from that, I have my sessions. um, if anyone feels ever drawn, like that is perhaps their next breadcrumbs, and I would love to invite them into the life path session or the spirit session. What else? I have Earth School, which is my membership. Earth School is learnings that help us to bridge that gap that I was talking about, so that you can see that you're more than just a human. And I have Soul School, which is more for, I think, those who wish to work in the spiritual arena. So, all these beautiful tarot readers, psychics, mediums that are wanting to learn a little bit more and deeper. That's it. Thank you.
beautiful.
This was such a good
I'll make sure that when this live is over, I will pop the links for access to you in the comments of this live, and that will also be included below in the podcast.
Thank you so much for this, and thank you for letting me come and share. This was such a lovely chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kasia, for joining us today and sharing your wisdom. It's been an enlightening and transformative conversation, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And to our dear listeners, those of you that are watching and listening, remember that you are the center of your vortex. You have the power to choose a different path and embrace your true self.
Stay connected with us on future episodes as we continue to bring you more incredible guests and insightful conversations.
And if you found value in today's episodes, please make sure that you subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. It helps us reach more people who are on their spiritual awakening journey.
And don't forget, visit Kasia's website for her free workshops and connect with her on social media.
Until next time, keep elevating your spiritual awakening. Much love.
Stay curious.
Thank you.